What's going on, guys? Chuck here. So yesterday, it turns out, was the anniversary of the very first drive-in being open. And if you follow me for any sort of time, and if you have, thank you, but you'll know that I'm a frequent attendee at the drive-in. Me and Chris have season passes to our drive-in here in Shelbyville, Indiana. And, I've been going to the drive-in since I was a kid. A lot of my movie stories, if you will, a lot of times will start with I saw it at the drive-in. As I went there a lot, as a kid. I mean, I remember hearing things here and there. I went as a teenager, just hanging out. We had a couple drive-ins. We had like two main drive-ins around here when I was growing up. One was called Twin Air, which was one big screen. It's a huge lot. Had a one big giant screen, but a screen on either side. So you either on this side or you drove around the other side to depending on what movie you're watching. And that was like the really close one. But it was also right next to like the natural gas plant. So it always had a smell, a really bad odorous smell. So watching movies there was always interesting. And the other one we had was we called the Southview Drive-In. And it was, right off the interstate, a lot of truck stop areas and whatnot. Neither one of those are around anymore. But I had a lot of fond memories at those. Because at the Twin Air, I saw a lot of movies. I remember I saw friends and I we saw Terminator 2, and I believe Boys in the Hood on the same bill. That's crazy. At the Southview, I remember going to see the first Batman in that drive. That was a huge event. A bunch of us packed cars and went and saw that. I think that's the same drive-in I saw Jason Lives and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and several other films. In my teens and your early 20s, we went to one called Tibbs, which is actually still in operation. But I've seen a lot of movies there from time to time. But that was just kind of here and there, and I never really. I went. I had fun. It was great. It was driving. So the movie was great, but I didn't really get or understand the culture and appreciate it as much as I do now. And that's mainly from my time at the Skyline, and that started just prior to COVID and being locked in our rooms for a year. I've seen them on Facebook, and they always had a lot of the same thing with Artcraft. For years before I went there, and now I frequent both all the time. But I would see their ads for these different events, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." We never did. It wasn't until they were hosting at the time was like their first. They call it Camp Skyline, and make sure Mike's still on. What it was they were going to be showing. They showed Friday the 13th Part 4 or the final chapter, Friday the 13th Part 5, and Drive-In Massacre on the same night. And, Part 5 was going to be in, 35 millimeter. I was like, well, this is really cool. I've never seen, either one of these Friday the 13ths on a big screen. Go to drive-in. It'd be a lot of fun. Why not? And they were advertising people coming to, run around the lot. And scary. It's like, oh, Cheryl and I said, well, let's go check this out. It'll be fun. And we went, and I was blown away by the experience. It was so much fun. And it had been years since we'd been to a drive-in. And, I remember watching the movies and having such a great time and watching Friday the 13th Part 5 and the 35 millimeter. They actually had to take a brief intermission to switch reels, which was cool. It was all, just crackly and it just looked like film. It was awesome. And then the food was great, the atmosphere was great. It's only a one screen drive-in. Currently, they've been in works to try and get a second screen here for a while. But the people were great. But I remember after that, I was like, okay, well, the three movies are played, and it's it. But no, they had a special surprise. Well, what could the special surprise be? I mean, we're done with three movies. It's getting late. This was in September too, so it was a little chilly. It was a nice, cool September night, perfect night for this. And the next one they surprised me was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Whoa, it blew my mind. But no, they weren't done yet because they also had advertised you could camp overnight for this. So after Texas Chainsaw Massacre played, of course, we were not prepared for this. We were tired. We made it through. But after that, played Night of the Living Dead. So this was a great night. This is the first night I ever went to this drive-in, and I was like, "This is just amazing. We got to come back." And then we didn't come back until the following year, when they hosted their annual Super Monster Movie Fest, which I mentioned before. They do it every year. That's 2 nights, Friday, Saturday night, overnight camping. They have about like 10 films based on the theme. And I think that first one we went to was Man Created Monster or something like that, and basically it's like Frankenstein and a couple other films like that with that kind of theme. We never made it the whole night because I'm too old to camp out overnight. I just had the kids, but we had a good time, and we started going regularly. And especially, I think it really kicked in during COVID because the theaters were closed, no one was going out, but the drive-ins really thrived during quarantine because you could go to the drive, you can stay in your car. We were all like however many feet apart in our parking spots. They weren't close together. They developed a thing called a fan food app where we could order food, and go pick it up from an outside, go pick it up from a window, as opposed to going in and huddling around with everybody. So it was a great way to stay socially distant, if you will, and still go out and have a good time for relatively cheap. The prices were, well under what any kind of big theater was playing or charging for, excuse me. And was doing that and seeing, the other events they would host, I was starting to see the same people, which was cool. Every time you go, you see the same people, the same groups to hang out. I got to know Joe, the co-owner, and it was just, you really feel the familial aspect, the community aspect of the drive-in, and it's so awesome, to say the least. It's a place to go. You're going to see the same people. Like I said, you're going to have a good time. Food's great. The atmosphere is wonderful. It's a good, clear night. It's a great night. And what's cool is that our drive-in is now currently open, all year long. Take a brief break after the Christmas holidays for a couple weeks, but for the most part, they recycle, or they don't recycle, but they just keep on going even through the cold months. And Chris and I have gone and seen a couple films in the cold. They have do a Christmas thing. They go before even they went all year. They would go deep into December, just prior to Christmas, and have Christmas movies. And like last year, we went and saw. Took the kids, saw Santa and the Grinch. Got pictures, and we watched the Grinch. And they always play Christmas Vacation, but it's always a lot of fun. So I've really come to embrace and enjoy and appreciate the whole drive-in atmosphere, and it's something that I think that it's rare now because the drive-ins are so. They're thin. They're obviously they're not what they once were, but it's cool when there are a few that are still around and they're doing great. I mean, you hear about them all the time. There's what's the? Oh my gosh, I can't think of right now. The Mahoning in Pennsylvania. They had a documentary on them at the drive, which is a really great documentary. I highly recommend it. But we've got here's a couple besides Skyline. We have. A couple other drive-ins I'll put them on, besides Tibbs and Centerbrook, I believe it is. And they're always doing great things, having some kind of special screenings or whatnot. And Skyline does it all the time, and it's wonderful and it's awesome. And they also, have great events. And last year, Joe, Bob, and Darcy were there. So that's so cool. But that is my love of the drive-in. I tell you all that to get to this point, which is I thought I would give you a double feature, if you will, a drive-in double feature. We'll talk about 2 films that I think, actually, I'm pretty sure are not even known about. I just found out about them when I purchased these. And we're going to talk about from 1970, 76, I think it was, or 78, 1978, Drive-In, and 1985, American Drive-In. So let's start with 76's Drive-In, 78's Drive-In. What year is this? It's got to be 78 because based on the film that's shown here. So what is drive-in? Again, I can't remember how I found out, but I think I found out about this movie just through Amazon, browsing around and whatever, and this popped up. Wow, that looks really interesting. What is that? And it was a blind buy completely. I had no clue, but just looking at it, and it was called Drive-In. I'll give this, check this out. And as you can see, this is a Columbia, was it Choice Collection? So this is an on-demand DVD, much like what is it, the Warner Archive, something like that. This is basically what this is. So it's relatively cheap, on when I got from Amazon. And I don't know if it's ever had any, well, obviously it's on demand, so it probably has another release. And I don't know if it ever came on VHS or not. I don't know. But, and it's funny because after I bought this and I posted on Facebook, because that's what I do, a couple of my people I know from the drive-in mentioned, oh, yeah, that's great. You'll check it out. It's made for us. So I was excited to see it. And also another tidbit, just recently, at the Skyline, the drive-in, in the restroom, they have movie posters hanging up, and they actually have this poster hanging up in the restroom. Like, that is so cool. I got to find this poster myself and get that. So, taking a closer look at that poster. I love the artwork. Again, this is a poster like this is a lost art. I mean, I really miss the days of painted or drawn posters and not just Photoshop floating heads or whatever. This is talent. This is art right here. That's what makes these older posters so collectible, because I said this is a piece of art. So what is Drive-In? Drive-In is basically a slice of life film, which I've talked about. I'm a sucker for that kind of movie. I'm a sucker for the slice of life. I'm a sucker for multiple characters in just interacting, intertwining, whatever. And that's exactly what Drive-In is. So it's right up my alley. But it's a day in the life of these people in a small little rural town in Texas. Nothing really going on except they have, the skating rink and the drive-in, the Alamo drive-in. You follow a bunch of different people. Mainly, the main character is Orville. He's a redheaded, teen. He's a good guy. He's got a horny little brother, and he's just not looking to tie down. He's like not the guy you expect in like this. You're looking for the guy who's basically going to be the hound who's going to go after all these girls. That is not Orville. He is a decent, upstanding guy. Which means the girls just love him, especially one Chloe, who is dating a guy named Enoch, which is the weirdest freaking name I've ever heard in my life. Enoch. He is the kind of the bully leader of a car club, because driving, you gotta have a car club called the Widowmakers, I believe it is. And he's driving in his van with all carpet. He's got a waterbed in it. Watching Ozzy and Harriet in the back of it. It's weird, but he's with her, and it's not working out. And now she's set her sights on Orville, and she's invited to the drive-in. Also on the drive-in, you've got these two bumbling guys who are decided they're going to rob the drive-in, make a better life for themselves. You've got who else? See, you've got a guy and who's proposing to his longtime girlfriend, and there's that whole thing. Trying to remember all the characters here. There's an opposing car club that the Widowmakers are going after. There's a doctor who's an African American doctor who's there with his wife, who keeps getting involved in these situations where he's like, "What the heck is going on?" It's making me look. I'm terrified. He's like very paranoid. It's actually pretty funny. You've got the owner of the drive-in who's basically trying to make sure no one's doing anything wrong. And it's all these little things that are really just kind of fun bits. I mean, it's not really a plot per se, but again, I love this kind of movie. It's got everything I like, and it's funny, and it's silly and goofy at the same time. But I love these kind of films. And what's the kicker about this? They're playing a movie called Disaster 76. Disaster 70. Again, I can't remember what year it is. It's so bad. What does that say? Man, I can't read that. I think it's 76. the eyes go when you get old. And the print is so small. It's like right there. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I can look back, and I'll see what it is. But anyways, this film is nothing. It's a parody of disaster films, which were huge in the '70s. So you start off with a plane that crashes into a tower, which catches on fire, like the Towering Inferno. So you're already in the airport, Towering Inferno. Somehow there's a flood and coming from that, and then there's a boat that sinks, a la like Poseidon Adventure, and then you've got like people strapped in the water. There's like a shark, those jaws. It's hilarious. It's just so goofy. I mean, that's what's cool about things like this. It's similar to something like Popcorn or Matinee, where you have this whole story in theater, and you have these faux movies playing, and they're just hilarious. You want more movies because they're so goofy and dumb. And that's what Disaster 76/78, whichever one it is, but it's a perfect cliche on that. So that's basically it for Drive-In. I said it's not a whole lot of plot. It's just this night at the Drive-In, these characters doing their thing, interacting, and we're witnessing it all and having fun with it. And it's so much fun. It really is. It's simple. It's a quick, easy watch. It's enjoyable. There's some good laughs in it, and I highly recommend this kind of thing. Now, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but there's so many things it gives you good drive-in nostalgia to it, and again, mostly it's just a fun watch. Now, this DVD, like I said, it's very simple. It's, you can see here, it is a on demand, but it widescreen, looks beautiful, plays great, from the Sony Choice Collection. If you can pick it up, if you're interested, I highly recommend checking it out. It is a lot of fun. And this is what I can go back and watch over and over again. Now, that takes us, 76, pretty sure 76. Why I say that, because it takes almost 9 years later, we get American Drive-In. And this one, again, this is one I had never heard of either. It was a blind buy. And specifically because it popped up when I was searching for this kind of came up as a recommendation. And I was like, well, okay, sure, why not? And this DVD is from something called Blue Laser. So I don't know. See that right there? I never heard of them. I don't think I've heard of them since. So this is interesting for a couple of reasons. And I'll get to the main reason why it may be memorable. This is kind of on the same lines as Drive-In. It's a night at the Drive-In. You've got these characters that are just, interacting. Well, they're kind of cross paths, not to the degree of Drive-In. They're kind of, a lot of them are more on their own. But start off, you've got a guy and was it Bobby Sue? Or Bobby Ann, excuse me. Again, this is another rural kind of country Drive-In, and he's proposed to. It's almost got a similar storyline from a story thread from Drive-In, where you had a guy who proposed to his girlfriend, and she's questioning, do I want to make this jump, or how's my life changed? It's kind of the same thing here, except a little more dumbed down, if you will. But you also have you have a gang. I don't know if they're a car gang, but the leader is, he's like a 50s throwback because he's got a greased out hair, and I can't remember what his name is. Sarge, whatever. Yeah. He does gang, and they're just bullies, and they kind of come in the Drive-In. They see Bobby Ann, and they want her. He wants her, and so there's that. You've got two old ladies coming to see this movie, and they can't really hear it. You got so one's translated to the other. It's strange. You've got a mayor who's trying to, or some politician trying to become mayor, and he's trying to catch people's sell on the Mary Jane, as he calls it. He's trying to get his kids involved, or get his son to go sneak around, and while his daughter's trying to sneak off and have a little fun without her dad knowing. There's a few other things that I can't really remember because this one isn't as memorable as Drive-In. And one of the problems I have with this film is that its tone is so weird. With Drive-In, it's a comedy straight through, no problems. You may have a couple of, semi-serious moments, but not really. Again, it's all fluff. It's a comedy. This one here, it's a comedy because you have all the gags, it's silliness, but sometimes it gets into really dark moments where it's like, where is this coming from? It's kind of throwing you off, then it wants you to laugh again, and its tone is all over the place. It's really strange. You've got a drunk projectionist who's complaining about how bad the movies they're showing, which, by the way, let's talk about that. The movies they're showing in here is Hard Rock Zombies 1 and 2. Now, some of you may even say, well, Hard Rock Zombies, that sounds familiar. And that's because there is a film called Hard Rock Zombies by the same director. In fact, that movie was filmed specifically to be shown as a film in American Drive-In. Only 20 minutes originally were to be filmed for Hard Rock Zombies, and they called it 1 and 2, but that's all I had. But I guess it was going so well, they decided to stretch it out and actually make a full movie, and then you get Hard Rock Zombies proper. So that is really the one reason why American Drive-In, if anything is to be remembered, is because it has Hard Rock Zombies, assuming you want to remember Hard Rock Zombies. So that's kind of, I always found that as a fascinating tidbit. And the connection between those two is actor Phil Fondacaro, who is going by the name of H.G. Golas, and he is a little person actor. If you know him, you recognize him because he's like that guy actor. As far as little people go, he's done a lot of stuff. He actually started in Under the Rainbow, which I talked about that's a lot or some time back. But he plays was it Rocky? I think he's an actor. He's come to the drive-in to watch Hard Rock Zombies because he's excited about his performance in it. That's the whole thing. He's like he's not getting business. He's like writing to his agent why he hasn't gotten it. George Lucas and got people play for Jedi. Why isn't he in it? Why is my you're my agent? Why aren't you getting me jobs? But he's watching the movies, excited. Every time they cut to scenes in the movie of Hard Rock Zombies, he's this is such a great performance. I'm so good in this movie. It was kind of funny because when you go to Hard Rock Zombies, he's in it too. So yeah, that's really the main kind of thing about American Drive-In. Also of note, there's a group of kids that are working Drive-In. They're kind of like mischievous, and one of them is played by Danny Nucci. Like, who the hell's Danny Nucci? Well, the only thing I knew Danny Nucci from as Fabrizio, Jack's good friend from the film Titanic, and he's here as a young kid, which I thought was interesting because I really didn't know anybody else in here except for, like I said, Phil Fondacaro. So anyway, yeah, Hard Rock Zombies was birthed from American Drive-In. It's one, I think you want to call it claim to fame. I don't know if I could really recommend American Drive-In because it doesn't have the appeal to me as Drive-In does. Again, mainly because the tone is so all over the place, for one. I mean, it's got some funny moments here, but the characters just aren't really as enjoyable, as silly as here. I think the slice of life aspect is done better on this. Also, this DVD, the transfer, is it's not a widescreen. It's 1/66, full frame. Now I don't know whether they got this or the source from it, pulled it from a VHS or whatever. And it's standard full frame. It's a quick watch though. It's only like about 80 some minutes. There's nothing special on this DVD either, other than a quick blurb of the cast and crew. That is it. But here's a closer look at this. And also, here's the back with some of the stuff on it. Oh, and it's got the little snaps. And there's the DVD. Again, another relatively cheap purchase from Amazon. So that pretty much is it. I just wanted to kind of, celebrate the anniversary of Drive-In with talking about 2 drive-in movies. Like I said, drive-in double bill. And I think I'm going to follow this up. We'll talk about Hard Rock Zombies because I just went through and watched all 3 of these just because. And one of the reasons why I got Hard Rock Zombies because I knew it was in here, and I had to check it out. Plus, Vinegar Syndrome put out a great release of it some time back, and that was a great get on a sale. So I finally got a chance to sit down and watch it right after this, which is interesting to see the movie proper and seeing the scenes played in here, and then seeing them. It's interesting, and then going into more detail of the movie itself. But so that is pretty much it for this one. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you've heard of Drive-In or American Drive-In. And if you have, which one did you prefer better? If you know any other kind of drive-in movies that I'd love to hear about. I know there was one I've heard from another channel. It's like a 70s, kind of sex comedy by the Drive-In. I can't remember what it's called now. I'll probably put it here, but I got to find that and get that because it's a drive-in thing and it's a sleazy sex comedy. I'm all about that kind of stuff. I have to find that one and add it to the collection. But anyways, or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Jug saying I will see you on the other side.